Hi, this is Joe from PrepAgent, and today we're going to go over some questions. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that if you want to participate with other people studying for the real estate exam, just like you, remember to go to our Facebook group. Just look up PrepAgent Study Group, and you can find other people asking questions similar to ones you have as you're preparing for the real estate exam. But without further ado, let's start doing some exam questions. Okay, so the first one we're looking at today says, Zena granted the property to your group Grilda, but because she knew that your Grilda had a drinking problem, she told her that there was a condition. The condition was that the property would be forfeited if alcohol is sold on the premise. Grilda would have which of the following estates? Estate of sufferance, fee simple absolute, a life estate, or fee simple defeasible? What do you guys think? And the answer to this one would be fee simple defeasible. Okay, so you have different types of estates. You have a freehold estate and a less than freehold estate. Estates have to do with duration of time. When you have your less than freehold estates, those have to do with basically leases. You have your estate for years, periodic tenancy, estate at will, and estate at sufferance. Your freehold estates is when you own it for an indefinite period of time. So less than freehold is a limited period of time. The freehold is for an unlimited period of time. In that category, you have fee simple defeasible, life estates, and a fee simple defeasible estate. When you have a fee simple defeasible estate, that means it can be defeated upon the happening of a certain event. The event in this equation here is that they're selling alcohol, and there's a condition. When you violate a condition, it means you can lose the property. So the answer here is fee simple defeasible estate. Let's move on to another question. Randolph is renting property from Tyrone. Randolph is on a month-to-month lease agreement. This past month, he did not pay his rent. Randolph's interest would be classified as estate at periodic tenancy, estate at sufferance, estate for years, or estate at will. And let's check the answer. And the answer is estate at sufferance. Okay, so when we look at this question, Randolph's rent is property of Tyrone. Randolph is on a month-to-month lease agreement. The past month, he did not pay. The moment you see that, you know the landlord is suffering. Therefore, it's an estate at sufferance. Another way to say this in layman's terms would be he's a deadbeat tenant. Okay, so that's estate at sufferance. And remember, that's one of those less than freehold estates. Okay, that's what we're talking about. The four here are less than freehold estates. Which of the following is not a characteristic of a fee simple title? It is always free of encumbrances. It is indefinite in duration. It is transferable with or without consideration. It is transferable by will or intestate. Give everybody a moment here. And the answer is, it is always free of encumbrances. Be careful of words like always and never. Those are called absolutes. And this is basically a vocabulary test on legal terms. And if you know the law, there's almost always an exception to every rule. And the exception here is that there's always taxes. Okay? So it's not always free of encumbrances because you got taxes. Okay, let's move on to another one. When the preliminary title report reveals the existence of an easement on the property, it indicates that the easement is an encumbrance, tenement, encroachment, or lien. What do you guys think? And the answer is encumbrance. Okay, so an encumbrance is anything that limits your property. An easement is essentially somebody walking across your property. And wouldn't you find that limiting if somebody's just walking across your property? I know I would. In an impertinent easement, the party that benefits is known as the servient tenement, the dominant tenement, the lessor, or the lessee. Okay, what do you guys think? And their answer is dominant tenement. Okay, so when you have an easement, somebody's walking across your property. If I'm walking across your property, you're serving me. Therefore, it's the servient tenement. You could say that I'm dominant as I'm walking on top of you. Therefore, I'm the dominant tenement. So remember, the dominant is the one walking on, all right, and the servient is the one being walked on. Okay, next one. Property over which an easement runs in favor of another parcel of real estate is known as servient estate, prescriptive estate, dominant estate, or condemned estate. Now, Kai just went over this. Let's see if you know the answer. And the answer is servient. Remember, they're being walked on. So you can see in the question, this is in favor of another parcel. That parcel would be the dominant estate. Okay, next question. Which of the following terms best describes personal property that by its attachment to real property is regarded as real estate? Appliances, novation, fixtures, or personality? And the answer is fixtures. Okay, a fixture is something that was personal property is now real property. And the way you know that is by remembering the acronym MARIA. MARIA stands for method, adaptability, relationship, intention, and agreement. Okay, super important you remember that. Method, adaptability, relationship, intention, and agreement. Okay, and a fixture is something that just was personal property, but by the nature it was attached to the real property is now considered part of that real property. A lessee is released from the obligation to pay rent if the lessee is constructively evicted, owner sells the property, lessee abandons the premise, owner declares bankruptcy. See what you guys think here. The lessee is constructively evicted. Constructive eviction is when the landlord interferes with your ability to enjoy the property. An example of that would be making sure the water doesn't work or there's no heat on a freezing day. Okay, it makes it unlivable. So if that happens, you're released from the obligation to pay rent. Personal property includes all the following except chattels, implements, fructus industrialis, or fixtures. What do you guys think here? Okay, the answer is fixtures. Remember, we just went over what a fixture is. A fixture is real property. It's something that was personal property, but is now considered real property because of that Maria test. Remember, method, adaptability, relationship, intention, and agreement. Chattels are personal property. Personal property is property that goes with the person. Real property goes with the real estate. Very often you'll hear things like personal property is movable, real property is immovable. There's exceptions to that rule. That's a very general rule. It does not always apply. For example, a trade fixture, okay, is immovable, but yet it's personal property. And there's examples of fixtures that are movable, but are considered real property, like a pool covering. So you got to be careful of that. So the better way I like to say it is personal property goes with the person, real property goes with the real estate. Another word for personal property is chattel. Remember, chattel, cattle, cows, move. Okay, moving right along here. A person has complete control over a parcel of real estate is said to own a leasehold estate, a defeasible fee estate, a fee simple estate, or a life estate. Let's see what you guys think. Let's check the answer. And the answer is fee simple estate. Fee simple estate is the largest degree of ownership. Sometimes you call it a fee simple absolute or estate and fee. Those three are the same things, and it's a type of freehold estate. But remember, there's always taxes, so it's not absolute ownership. Leslie and Vivian bought a store building and took title as joint tenants. When Vivian died testate, Leslie now owns the store in severalty, as joint tenants with rights of survivorship, as tenant common with Vivian's heirs, or in a trust. See what you guys think here. And the answer is in severalty. Okay, so you have joint tenants and tenancy in common. Joint tenancy has the four unities: time, title, interest, and possession. It also has the right of survivorship. Tenancy in common just has that unity of possession, and there's no right of survivorship. And what I mean by that, joint tenancy, if I own a property with another joint tenant and that person dies, I get the property. Whereas tenants in common, their portion could go to their heirs. So when Leslie and Vivian bought a store building and took title as joint tenants, Vivian died testate, which means she has a will, but it doesn't matter because it's a joint tenancy. So Leslie now owns the store by herself. She does not own it with Vivian heirs in any way. Let's take a look at this one again. Randolph is renting property from Tyrone. Randolph is on a month-to-month lease agreement. This past month, he did not pay his rent. Randolph's interest would be classified as We'll do this one a little quicker because we went over it before. Estate at sufferance. Land that is subject to an easement is said to be, and we spoke about this before, we said encumbered. Because remember, an easement is an encumbrance. Sometimes you'll see the question if easement is a lien. A lien has to do with money. So easements don't have to do with money. So an easement is an encumbrance, but it's not necessarily a lien. Let's look at one more together. Property over which an easement runs in favor of another parcel of real estate is known as condemned estate, serving estate, prescriptive estate, or dominant estate. And the answer is serving estate. Really important you know this one. You have your servient and dominant tenement. Okay, the dominant tenement is the one crossing the property. The servient one is the one that's being crossed. Okay, so that's all we got for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Remember to join the Facebook group. When you guys have any questions, I'll answer questions there. We also try and keep in touch whenever we can through our other social media outlets. But check back tomorrow and we'll have another webinar ready for you. Thanks. This is Joe from PrepAgent.